surely not. But yeah, so that's obviously one of the team favourite cars in the, I'd say the Cayman class. The Caymans and the 911 Cup cars running in the same class, the H5 and the V5 car. Sorry, the H4, isn't it? H4 and the V5 cars running together.
And the car that 960 is having a battle with is the Mulner Motorsport Cayman of Hamza Orvega, Alex Schuler and Moritz Krantz. So 2 Cup 3 Caymans, the Teichmann Racing example and the Mulner Motorsport machine side by side through the opening part of the second lap. And batch 3, I reckon this is nearing the end of the lap as well, with a Peugeot RCZ amongst them. So that is the Team Rally Top 385 car, the SP2T entered machine, and has behind it, is that a Toyota GT86, the yellow car?
Yes, and a little bit of contact there, I reckon, as the Toyota GT86 dived up on the inside, car number 532, and I wouldn't say barged his way through, but I'm pretty sure there was contact between him and the Peugeot RCZ, which has now slipped down to 3rd place in that little group. And very sideways onto the grass as well. There goes the Toyota as he chases down the 292 car up ahead of him. And some very close racing indeed between those two. And yes, they can afford to be a bit more exuberant on the Grand Prix circuit, because if they do just have a little bit of side by side, then there's runoff area. But do that out on the Nordschleife, and consequences could be a bit more severe. 7
Toyota GT86s entered into this race, and the majority of them are Cup 4 examples. I think it's Cup 4 purely Toyota GT86 class. Actually, not having said that, I'm not sure whether it is, but there's also a Toyota GT86 in SP3 as well. Having checked out Cup 4, I think I might have spotted a different car in that as well. No, I think I'm going to go with that idea, that Toyota GT86s are all that you find in Cup 4. Meanwhile, the BMW 235i battling continues. No surprise there. There's been a change of lead because car 666 is now ahead of 691. The Pixum car, I think that's 675, is still there in 3rd position. That's the all-white car. And then it's 694, which is the Team Securtal Sorg Rennsport car of Heiko Eichenberg. And it might be just Heiko doing the race on his own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, though, Cup 5 cars, almost nose to tail at the start of this, the second lap for the BMWs. So the 5th place car certainly hasn't got too far distant from this leading pack. They're just heading through the Vidal chicane now, and already we have leaders coming back, and a different leader. This is the overall lead having changed to the hands of the BMW from Falcon Motorsport. Now, last time we checked, that car was in 2nd position. It seems to have drafted by the Manthey Racing Porsche number 59. And I think the 59 is now into 3rd position as one of the bonnet clips on the 100 Falcon Horse Motorsport BMW is working its way loose. We often do see bonnets flapping in the breeze down the very, very quick Dottinger. No, good news is Manthey Racing haven't slipped to 3rd. It's 2nd position, as the cars have to take a very different line, trying to avoid one of the smaller Audi TTs into the final chicane on this Grand Prix Strecker. So all very fraught at the head of the order. That's actually condensed everybody in the leading pack. The BMW from Falcon Motorsport's got a bit of an edge away, but 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th positions very closely matched indeed.
Yes, and the Glockenspiegel team Montreal Ferrari, number 22, at the back of that little group, is certainly not hanging around at all. The Ferrari looked as though he was going to try and find a way past the Renault RS01 as they came through at the completion of the lap. Wasn't quite in a position to do it, but again closes up, and you get the feeling that whoever is at the wheel of the Ferrari having to be a bit patient at the moment to make sure he doesn't get himself into trouble early on in the race. So a change of lead, as you say, with Jörg Müller then leading the race now from Sven Müller, who's been pushed back to third place, and then we get the Valkenhorst Motorsport car, either Matthias Henkeler or Christian Krognius, or possibly Michele Di Martino, but I think it will probably be Christian Krognius or Matthias Henkeler who take the first stint. And meanwhile, behind there, great battle going on as either Robert Renault or Klaus Bachler tries to get past the Valkensport BMW as well.
Yes, so again, slightly more manoeuvre. Oh, and an incident onto the, and which is involved of the 4 Falken Motorsport car as a result. Now, there's already an incident going into Hatzenbach involving 2 of the BMWs, I think from the 235i class, and because basically only half of the tarmac into Hatzenbach was available to cars, as the 4 car came into that area of track, battling with the 100 BMW, unsighted, and I think possibly pitched into a spin, but also involved was the number 22 Ferrari as well. So the number 4 Porsche is going to have to go straight back into the pits, and effectively that Grand Prix lap, or slightly shorter than a Grand Prix lap, will not be counted because it's taken the backdoor entry into pit lane, clearly with the number 4 Porsche damaged. And what a real shame that is, because we were set for an intense fight over the next lap around the Nordschleife between the 100 BMW and the Porsche. We're going to be denied that, and also we might be denied any more action from the Ferrari number 22, because that looked to be in the gravel and possibly quite deeply. And the question is whether that car can be recovered at speed, and it might just be turned round through 180 degrees and sent back into the pit lane as well.
Yeah, the question is, if they do get it out of the gravel, are they going to be able to get it going again? By the time they do get it going again, it will have lost the best part of half a lap, if not more than that. So whether it was Georg Weiss, Oliver Kainz or Jochen Krumbach at the wheel, don't know, but an illustration perhaps of the wisdom of, I was saying that the Manthey Racing Porsche was the number 911 car, Ricard Leitz, Romain Dumas, was holding back a little bit, but the wisdom of that move of holding back, exactly that you don't get involved in an incident which, I think you are absolutely right, Johnny, it was caused by another incident happening up ahead of it between 2 of the BMW 235i's.
Yes, it was interesting that initially I caught sight of that from an onboard view, effectively, of one of the SP9s, I think, heading into the left-hander. This is where the Grand Prix track separates from the Nordschleife, so you turn left if you're wanting to take the long lap, and that's what everyone was trying to do. But the problem was they were faced with one BMW facing the conventional way, another BMW facing nose onto them, and they were door handle to door handle, but one had gone through 180 degrees, one was facing the right direction, and they had obviously slapped side to side, one partly in the gravel, and that really restricted the route for these SP9 leaders onto the Hatzenbach. Unless you were onto the inside line, you really had no hope of getting through that part of the circuit. And I feel really sorry for the guys involved there, just in the wrong place at the wrong time, not able to judge that incident, and very tricky for the marshals to signal what was going on so quickly after it had happened. I'm sure there were yellow flags being displayed there, but when you're caught in traffic, you're trying to get the jump on somebody for third position, effectively for the overall positions. It's very difficult to judge that position, that situation at speed. 960 and 979 are 2 Caymans. They've been at it from the start of the race, and this is the start of their 3rd lap now on the Grand Prix track. So quite a job for the marshals down at the end of the Grand Prix track and the start of the Hatzenbach to try and get, I think, 3 cars at the very least recovered there, and they may be running short of flatbeds very quickly. Meanwhile, the Caymans are heading now out of the Michael Schumacher S and towards the right-hand kink that leads into the Vidal chicane. And this might present an opportunity for me to tell you how the recovery process is going onto the Hatzenbach. Meanwhile, the Falken Motorsports Porsche has been put on the dolly jacks and taken into the garage for attention on the rear as well, which suggests it's had contact both on the front and the rear. Exhaust pipes possibly a little buckled. I'm just trying to work out. I think they are supposed to be pointing towards each other. That's part of the design. As
possibly some damage to the floor, because
yes,
the aerodynamics so sensitive on these GT3 cars that when you've gone over the gravel, very often it doesn't quite work just to keep going, because you've done some damage to the floor underneath, and none of the aerodynamics work properly.
And Ferrari number 22 has now been towed out of the stones to driver's right at the Hatzenbach, the end of the Grand Prix track. And there's an Audi, what's that, Q5 possibly, just reversing to warn of the incident that's happened there, make sure that everyone's going into the Hatzenbach at a sensible speed, whilst the Ferraris continue to be recovered. But it will have lost well over a minute now. And so it's something for the team to decide as to, well, I'm sure they will continue. Any opportunity to get useful points and back up that win they got in VLN 3, slowly going out of the window. Meanwhile, Renault RS01 scything its way through traffic, heading, this is just beyond Brunchen, I reckon, a large campsite that is always full of people during the 24-hour weekend. So Renault RS01 that was in 5th position the last time we checked. The 911 Porsche from Manthey Racing, the Grello car in 7th place, and that had company as well with the Fricadelli Motorsports Porsche number 31, not very far away. There might be a bit of a gap emerging now though between 911 and 31, and sadly for the Falcon Motorsport crew, they're still working on the front end of this Porsche. The front bumper is off the car, and a big clutch of cable ties ready to be snapped into place, I think, to make sure that the bodywork can be put back on the car and securely. Meanwhile, the M235i Dice is no less fraught. 691 all over the curbs there, as was 666. That's first and second in the class. And here comes then the 675 car in its all-white livery, the Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport car, at least to get second, and possibly the class lead. Not quite. Caught behind 691, but a much tidier, neat and tidier line out of the Mercedes arena for the white car meant that it was able to pick off there the Jaeger and Adams machine.
Yes, you can see how easily these little incidents happen, can't you, when they get they're running so close together, having their individual class battles, and it only takes a slight touch and all of a sudden you end up having a little spin or something, and then if you've got faster cars behind you, they have to somehow get through and avoid the traffic.
BMW Z4 from Valkenhorst Motorsport, number 36. Still having a nice little dice. And the dark blue BMW M6 I'm struggling to identify. That might be the other Valkenhorst car.
I think that is the 35 car, yes.
So it is the Valkenhorst.
Yeah, the Henry Valkenhorst, the team chef, patron, driving that one.
59 in now, for my money, very early, because we've only had 3 or 4 laps.
That's the end of the 3rd lap then for the number 59 car. This is the car that started the race on the pole position, Sven Muller, and as far as we know, he was clear of the incident at the beginning of the race, although, I mean, maybe this is just the way they want to run the race. 26 minutes in, still over 3.5 hours to go, but it probably means that they can do the remainder of the race on a further 2 pit stops. The 4-hour race lending itself to 3 pit stops, but it does mean that you have some flexibility, because these cars will run for more than an hour on a single tank full of fuel. So on the 3rd lap then, already out onto the Hatzenbach for the race leaders.
Yes, SP9 class, you're going to be hard up against it to do any more than 8 laps. The tank might be able to do 8.5, but obviously that's no good for getting you home at the end of lap 9. However, if there is a slow zone out there, or several slow zones during a stint, you might be able to extend an 8-lap stint to 9 and that might buy you the extra lap, but the race distance is kind of designed so that you have to do an extra bit at the end, unless you slice it into 7-lap stints, which is what the Ferrari did last time out. So effectively you're pitting a lap short of what the tank will give you, and that just meant that it was slightly more an even way of dividing the race. But that might be the splash already done for car 59. So
in effect, that's exactly right, Johnny.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what they're trying to do with that car. What I didn't see, whether we had a driver change taking place. I would imagine they would have changed the driver.
I think they did that last time because they are now aiming to do the race on a further 3 stints, this one and another 2. Then it would make sense to put either Steve Smith or Randy Walls in for this 8-lap, I'm going to say, tentatively stint. Randy Walls then in for the next one, and then leave Sven Muller for the final run to the flag. So effectively you're putting your pro driver in at the start for a short blast and then for a much longer stint at the end. Car 59 just trying to ease its way by Seat 820. That's one of many TCR class cars in this race, and the 820 car is the entry from FEV Racing. Benedict Gentgen and Marcus Horn, the Wuppertal-based driver, and 820 is in TCR class. Just to confirm that, we have how many TCR cars? Might be as many as 5 here this weekend, with the Volkswagen Golfs of Matilda Racing, Seat that I talked about from FEV Racing. LMS Engineering are here with an Audi RS3, the front-wheel drive RS3 LMS, and Bonk Motorsports Peugeot 308 Racing Cup car. Meanwhile, now is that car 59 coming back into the pits after just a loop around the Grand Prix Strecke? It looks like car 59 from the back. Was just trying to identify it properly. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
car 59 back in again, so clearly with issues. And although we said that we didn't think that car was involved in the incident going on to Hatzenbach, I certainly don't think it was involved with the 4 Porsche, but it may have just caught maybe the side of one of those BMWs that was stranded at the side of the track at Hatzenbach.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get enough of a shot to see for sure, but my feeling is that this is a mechanical issue rather than an accident-induced issue for the 59 Manthey Porsche. Not a great deal of work going on, Johnny. I think there's they've taken the front wheels off, but I think that's a distraction. The work that is going on is under the rear wing in the engine compartment. The team plugging in computers to the side of the car.
Romain Dumas is in the garage, although not assigned to that car. He's driving the 911 machine this weekend, but both are Manthey Porsches, so run from the same garage, and Romain Dumas just observing the work being done there. But yes, focus was definitely engine bay on that Porsche. 100 BMW trying to pick which side to go of the Cup 5 cars, and there was possibly contact then for the Renault that needed to slot through and past car 674 as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was, Johnny, and a little bit of damage to the front right wing there, I reckon. Service vehicles on the track as well, dealing with another incident off the circuit. I mean, this is the thing that you never quite realise at the Nürburgring. With 145 cars taking the start, it's inevitable that there's going to be little incidents happening around the place. And as drivers, you may be involved in your battle for position, battle for class lead, battle whatever it is, but you've also got to keep your eyes open for what's going on around the circuit. Coming down into Brunchen at the moment, it's the Renault chasing very hard indeed. He's up into second place, the Valkenhorst Motorsport BMW, number 100 up ahead of him. But just behind the Renault is the 911 Manthey Porsche. So the 911 car, which won 2 of the first 2 VLN races in the season, and needs to get the championship lead points back in order to recover some of its position. The 911 car just behind the Renault on board, which we're running at the moment.
So Renault 55 third position, at least that was the case at the start of this lap. Yes, with the 100 Valkenhorst Motorsport BMW just ahead, and the Renault able to keep pace with the big M6. The good news for both of these drivers is that there's a little bit of respite now as far as the traffic is concerned. There's more to encounter in a second on the Dottinger Höhe, and it was kind of ever thus, really. No quiet laps as soon as you caught the tail of this 150 car field. But the race leader, number 3, we're still saying Jörg Müller at the wheel of the number 3 BMW. I have Dusseldorf on the timing screen, but that might be because he's driver number 1, effectively. But we'll say Jörg Müller for the time being, coming down the final part of the long straight, and having now got 3 back markers between this two-tone Falcon Motorsports Beamer and the next car on the road, which is the Valkenhorst M6. But the Renault RS01 very close indeed now. Still trying to work out whether the 100 BMW is carrying a little bit of damage on the front right corner, which is gently starting to peel back the hood, the bonnet, and the clips are so far staying tight and therefore not causing a problem for the driver. The last thing you want is the bonnet to flick back onto the windscreen down the Dottinger Höhe when you're full chat, and really reliant on the scenery arriving at a very great pace through the windscreen. The 155 then on nose to tail, and Renault RS01 slightly better traction out of turn number 1 there to almost draw level with the Dunlop sponsored Valkenhorst Motorsport car. Here comes the Renault up the inside through the second part of the Mercedes arena, and I think that's second place bagged. Yes, it is for car 55. So fabulous move there through the second part of the Mercedes arena for the SPX entered car of Dieter Schmidtmann and Heiko Hammel, and that car then up to second position. And how far can that go on its tank of fuel, with the 911 car also looking to squeeze through ahead of 100, and Richard Leitz has done so. Yes,
he got a good line out of the corner and then was able to complete the move around the outside. The Renault on the previous corner getting very wide indeed, having got itself free of the BMW, wanting to move ahead, and was all 4 wheels off the grass, well, not off the grass, off the track onto the grass, and so the Manthey Porsche following through, so Renault Porsche both getting ahead of the BMW, and now the Fricadelli Porsche is up onto the tail of that number 100 Row Racing BMW.
Richard Leitz trying to get by the Renault now for second position as they head onto the Hatson back. So this is for the 5th time of asking. We're halfway through, I'd say, this opening stint for the cars going the distance as far as the tank is concerned, and there's certainly no indication that they're fuel saving this early on in the race. So I don't think anyone will be able to make a 9th lap. We haven't got enough yellows out on track either. This fabulous, sinuous sequence of corners, great for the spectators as well. Right, and left again, and then this compression area where the cars can't take to the racing line because it was a slower BMW Z4 there to negotiate. They go over the road section, that's the kind of residential road, as the track goes a little high, and over a concrete bridge, and then heading towards Flugplatz after the double right-hander.
And just a confirmation as well that the number 100 BMW, the Valkenhorst, it's Row Racing, the Valkenhorst car, the number 100 car, which is Row Racing but entered by Valkenhorst Motorsport, which is what's confusing me. So that car was involved in that incident going into the Hatzenbach earlier on as well. So there were 3 leaders and 1 BMW 235. The 3 leaders being the number 100 BMW, the number 4 Porsche, and the number 22 Ferrari, that were all involved in that incident. But certainly the least affected was the number 100 Row Racing BMW, but possibly now carrying some damage as a legacy from that, which is why it's now lost a couple of places.
Yes, I somehow thought that the BMW would have been involved because the Porsche was right on its tailpipes, effectively, and I think the Porsche pulled out to the right to potentially overtake the BMW around the outside of the first part of Hatzenbach, and then was presented by a completely blocked track with BMWs off left, right and centre. So, and then there was that damage on the front end of Porsche number 4, and I wonder whether that was as a result of catching the back of BMW 100. It's either that, or the Porsche caught one of the stranded Cup 5 cars already off the road. Tricky to tell, and haven't had another opportunity to describe that incident to you. But that may well come. I'm sure there are replays that the TV director has at his disposal. And as we describe this race for our radio audience, as soon as we do get images for a second time, might be able to throw a bit more light on that rather fraught incident, and tricky for the leaders to judge what was going on. So the 911 Porsche wasting absolutely no time at all. Who would be able to tell that Richard Leach was at the wheel of that Porsche with I don't know how many laps of the Nordschleife under his belt prior to this weekend. So has taken to this like a duck to water. Obviously has raced this circuit in much more difficult conditions because we have brilliant sunshine at the moment, and traffic being thrown at these guys very quickly indeed, but the 911 Porsche are able to deal with it. 100 seems pretty good for pace on this haul up the hill as they're about to approach the right-hander that then leads into the carousel, and then the continuing climb up to Hoheracht and Brunchen. Meanwhile, Porsche Caymans, as if they're on the first lap of this 4-hour race, still nose to tail, cannot be separated, and heading back over the line.
And the diagnosis on the number 59 Manthey Porsche is a gearbox issue on that car. So that car's still in the pits as far as we know, the number 59 Manthey car, having done that short lap, remember, came out of the pits having had an early stop, then came straight back in again from the cut through at the end of the Grand Prix loop.
The Cup 3 battle, and this will be for the lead of the class, still being fought between 979 and 960. So 979 has the lead at the moment, fending off the Teichmann Racing Porsche of Moritz Gussenbauer, Daniel Boer and Fabio Grusser. But I seem to remember these Caymans, or Caymans that look very much like these, were nose to tail for much of the 4 hours for VLN3 as well. So we've got a really good fight in Cup 5, and likewise just the 2 cars out front as far as Cup 3. I can't believe I'm complaining about just 2 cars there, because they're putting on a wonderful show. And of course this nose to tail fight for Cup 3 honours having to deal with its own slower traffic as well, because probably at the exit of Hatzenbach or maybe down towards Flugplatz, there are cars up ahead that these Caymans are approaching at speed.
Meanwhile, in the Cup X class, the KTM Crossbows, it's the Stuck car for Ferdinand and Johannes Stuck sharing, which is leading the way at the moment, and running pretty well too, in 17th place overall. So they've had good clean start. They started in the front group. We weren't sure initially which group they'd be starting in, but they did start in the front group with everybody else of the leading runners, and it's the Ferdinand and Johannes Stuck driven car that leads the way in that class. SPX still being led by the Renault RS01, of course, but that car, a car that really would like to be up there in the overall lead of the race as well.
One of the SP3T cars about to be caught by the race leader. I say one of them, so there's only one in the race, so that should be the 311 Seat. We obviously have Seat Leons as part of the TCR class, but the dark blue car, if memory serves, is one of the turbocharged, or the turbocharged car in that division. Typically I can't find the right page of the entry list, but I reckon that's car 311. And
A Cayman is off at the Tiergarten, and I believe that was the 418 car, which had come off there. And 418 is the Another of the Securitas Sorg Rennsport entered cars, Nicola Grivner, Bjorn Simon and Emin Akata, started the race 7th in its class, and so the Tiergarten section currently under yellow flags. And Johnny's just discovered that the entry list is double printed, so that's why he can't find half the entry list.
Yes.
So
all will become clear eventually.
I should have warned him I double-sided printed it.
It is the 311 car, though. I'm pleased I've identified that.
Good.
At the very least.
So a lot of cars coming through, a lot of traffic then, and a bit of a battle going on between the two BMWs, 35 and 36, having a battle there. The Jordan Presson car with the Claudia Hurtgen driven car, as into the pits, Johnny, is number 100.
Yes, which is the sister Valkenhorst car, isn't it, on its Dunlop tyres. Now, this looks to be a scheduled stop. A little bit of sticky tape going on the front right corner, so they're taping up some concern. Now, that was where the bonnet was flapping. So whether they are maybe not willing to risk the bonnet clip lasting the distance, although I'm not sure how much sticky tape will really clamp that down. You'll need possibly a bit more than the one sheet that was being applied. Seat number 311 about to be lapped by Renault number 55, and the Renault, as a result of cars pitting, is now up to second position, is it not?
I think so, yeah. I think the number 3 stayed out.
Fine.
So the Renault takes over in second place. Just 5 laps then on the board for the Valkenhorst Row Racing BMW when it made its pit stop.
It is showing scars, and they are mainly focused around the front portion, front right, I'd say, as the new driver. Ooh, difficult to tell now. Matthias Henkeler, Michele Di Martino and Christian Cronjes are the drivers. So if we get any update on who's taking that 100 car over, or indeed if anyone on the collective knows who's being strapped inside the 100 car, we would love to know. At Radio Le Mans, at RSL_studio and at Blackpool Johnny to get in touch. Car 55, the Renault, then back to full speed now. It was restricted obviously past the incident zone into Tiergarten with a damaged Cayman up against the Armco barrier, and there might be the need to replace part of that barrier as well, or at least make sure it's strong enough were it to be hit for a second time. Renault Clio made quick work off by the 55 Renault, now up to second position then, and that is displayed on timing and scoring with the 911 Porsche running in third, car 31 the Fricadelli Porsche running fourth ahead of the number 35 blue BMW from Valkenhorst Racing. And the other Valkenhorst BMW is still in the pits, but it's made its first stop, so still one to keep our eyes on. Tumbling down to at least 6th position, probably much further than that. Takes a fair while to do a pit stop. They're done as well, we should remind everyone, Paul, to a minimum pit stop time. That minimum pit stop time alters depending on how many laps you've just done in a stint.
Exactly so. The idea is that you don't have any benefit or disadvantage from a slower refueling nozzle or something. They give you a minimum time based on the length of the stint you've just done. And that works up until the last stint, and then it's based on the distance to the end of the race, which is how the last pit stop is defined. It's all a bit complex and difficult for the teams to work out, but it is quite a good way and quite a fair way of doing it.
Just over 45 minutes into VLN 4. Thank you for joining RadioLeMans.com's coverage. We've done all the VLNs up till now, and they're in the diary till race 9 in October. So if you're enjoying the coverage, don't forget that each and every one of the rounds still to come this year will be live on this station. Not always going to be the Palmer-Trustwell combo, but I quite like it when it's slightly varied. It was John Hindhoff and I for the last one. Paul's done a qualifying race for the Nürburgring 24. This is your first VLN?
No, I did VLN 2 with Bruce.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's I think the challenge for the responsible adult is actually to get a different combination for each of the 9 races, plus the qualifying race. So yes, plenty to do. Just keeping up to date, we talked about the 454 Porsche Cayman, which was off in the Tiergarten. We've also had a problem with a mechanical issue in the Pflanzgarten for a 911 GT3 Cup car number 609, and a tyre, a puncture for the number 119 Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car as well. That's off at the carousel with a tyre failure.
Okay, so there are quite a number of incidents to steer clear of. Marshals on site for each of them and making sure that there is sufficient warning for all the drivers out there well before the incident to back off the speed. But there's no doubt about the 100's pace at the moment, hammering its way down into the foxhole after Arenberg, and now with a Ferrari 458 up ahead of it. I reckon we did have a 458 as part of the third round of the championship, so that will be the Racing 1 GmbH edition, the NGK Spark Plug Racing team with their SP8 Ferrari, and now the 100 car can slice its way by that slightly older mid-engine Ferrari 458, the normally aspirated 4.5 litre prancing horse, and that car won 3.9, so it was 20th fastest in practice earlier on in the weekend. 100 then just working its way now through the double right hand. This is still the downhill run into Brightshine, so about to hit the road bridge, well not hit it, to cross over it hopefully, and then into the right hander that signals the climb out of this valley effectively, so down the hill towards the village of Brightshine, and now the ascent begins effectively up to Grunchen. Steep climb, and a lot of this is flat out, assuming you're not going to encounter any traffic. Just a slight feather of the throttle, as you can probably hear in the background from the number 100 car. All of this is unaffected by any yellow flags. So just remind me again, Paul, where were we expecting the first yellow flag area on this lap?
Probably at the carousel,
okay,
which is where they are now. That seemed to be clear as they went through there. So
that was Schwalbenschwanz,
though. That was Schwalbenschwanz, was it? Okay, yeah.
Trying to work out whether that's a break of the pictures or whether there is an easing off of the throttle. No, the 59 is the 911 car rather well and truly on it. So we've snapped away in terms of audio from the 100 engine noise to now the rear-engined Porsche from Manthey Racing, car number 911. And now you won't hear any onboard footage at all. It's focusing on cars heading down the long straight towards the end of the lap. It would have been quite nice to stay on board with the 100 BMW just to see the extent of the incident at the carousel proper. We may get another opportunity of seeing that relatively shortly. The fight for second position, though, is definitely on now with the Richard Leitz driven 911 Porsche. Just heading into a caution area, and this is at the end of the lap then at Tiergarten, as the clear-up continues for a Porsche Cayman, and also retrieving quite a bit of debris on the track with a handheld, or they're kind of like rucksack-style blowers, track blowers. So just the opposite of what a vacuum cleaner does.
Yeah, I think the marshal was using what we use to clear the leaves in the garden. It's a leaf blower, but the trouble is there's mud and debris, and it wasn't strong enough blowing to get rid of the mud and the debris. So the race is now back under green, and that battle, it is second, it's third, fourth, and fifth, isn't it? So no, second, third, and fourth between the Renault, the Porsche, and the number 31 Fricadelli car, and it's only the Fricadelli car which stays out, I believe, Johnny. So number 31 stays out. The Renault 55 and the Manthey Porsche both headed to the pits. Yeah,
all sorts of cars heading down pit road. The 35 BMW came in as well. And what about the race leader, car number 3?
That one stayed out only because we didn't see it come into the pits.
True. I think distance between 3 and 55 was relatively large, just because possibly the cautions have worked in the favour of car number 3, the two-tone blue Falkenhorst Motorsport BMW. Not being shown on my screen yet, as having stopped. There's some rejigging to be done for certain teams. Cars come in at an angle. They can do very little else because there's not much available pit lane apron to some of these teams. They're then often put up on dolly jacks and turned through maybe 45 degrees so that they're pointing roughly towards pit lane exit whilst the pit stop is done.
It also has the effect, Johnny, of kicking the tail in towards the pit wall, close to where the refueling pumps are. So very often the refueling gets done towards the rear of the car, and that's just where it needs to be. So what they normally do is they either paint or mark in tape kind of a little semicircle around the refueling, so they know whereabouts the car has to go. It's none of this precision that you get in Formula One or in WEC racing, where they mark the precise point where the car has to stop. This is very much more a trying to locate an area where the car is within range of the refueling hose.
Yes, you can practice and practice and practice a pit stop at the Nürburgring, but you're almost guaranteed to have no pit stop quite the same as the last. Just depends on who else is in around you, and remember, it is definitely work of compromise and coordination with your fellow pit garage friends, if you like. I was going to say neighbours, but you're almost on top of each other for this weekend with as many as, well, 7 cars I saw at the Nürburgring, 24 hours. 7 cars all run from the same garage. So car 4 has now reached the end of lap 6, and it is just ahead of the 100 BMW, I think. Certainly the 3 Porsche did not stop. Sorry, 3 BMW did not stop for Valkenhorst. So 3 stayed out, 31 stayed out, but 3 cars stopped behind, those being the 55 Renault, the 911 Porsche just heading out now, and in fact the 911 has got the jump on the 55 Renault. That had happened on track previously.
No,
or had it happened?
No, it hadn't happened on track.
Right,
it happened in the pit lane, so marginally short of pit stop. I hope that Manthey got its sums right and got the car out at the right time. So the Renault RS01 is out just ahead of the 36 BMW, which was another of the cars to make it stop on that last lap. So this is the end of the 6th lap for those cars.
And they now have to overtake the SP8 Ferrari 458. Renault in danger of slipping back a further position here as the 35 BMW M6 from Valkenhorst goes round the outside of the first bit of the Michael Schumacher S and clipping the curb, both the 35 and the 55, but that move is done. So that gives the 35 car now 4th position. Here's the order: 3 and 31, first and second, yet to make a stop. Then the 911 car, after great work from Richard Leitz and great work from his team, Manthey Racing, to get that car back out on track in 3rd position and to be the best placed of the pit stoppers. Then it's the 35 car, Jordan Tressard being displayed against the 35 car on my screen. It's not necessarily accurate. It'll either be Jordan or it'll be Henry Valkenhorst or David Schielwitz. And then it's the 55 Dieter Schmidtmann driven Renault slipping from 3rd to 5th in the space of a pit stop and a few corners.
Other incidents out on the circuit, Johnny, the car 105 Rossi Mazera Heinrich Porsche 911 car has had an accident out on the circuit, as has the 678 BMW 235i Racing Cup car, and also the 138 Manthey Racing Porsche in the Cup class. And also the 666 BMW, which was one of the cars that was leading. In fact, I think it was the leader in the 235 BMW Cup class. That's had an accident at Verseifen, which is just about halfway around the circuit, just as they go down to the bridge at Breitscheid.
Yeah, so 666 is the blue and black BMW. It had a time in the lead, certainly, but we also saw 691 out front, and 675 is your current leader, I'm going to say. Let's just confirm that. No, 691 is the current leader from 675. So the principally black BMW ahead of the all-white Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport car. And then in third position in Cup 5 is now 679, which is that sort of orange, green and yellow M235 car. The orange, green and yellow car being from, that's the Sorg Rennsport machine, as you recall. So Renault RS01 now pursuing 35 for 4th and 5th positions. 679 is actually the FK Performance GBR Cup 5 car, beg your pardon, of Yannick Mettler. Again, just the one driver showed against 679, so it might be a long old race for Mettler. Peugeot RCZ now being lapped by this fight for 3rd and 4th positions on the road. We'll develop into that. We're still waiting for the race leader, number 3, the BMW, to make a stop. Likewise for Fricadelli, who are pushing the envelope, not beyond what we've seen in the past, but it's interesting that many of the other SP9 cars have come in a little short of the maximum 8 laps, almost as if they know these cautions are having a real impact on lap times, and it's maybe well worth making a stop. Perhaps they're aiming to do the race on 2 stops in total.
I wouldn't have thought they'd be able to do it on 2, but it's going to be a minimum of 3. The question is whether they change the tyres and do a full stop as their 3rd stop. You know, that's a tricky one. If you do your stop in the last half hour of the race, then it's not constrained by a minimum time. So my tactic would be to stay out as long as you can early on, and then that enables you to do your splash at the end of the race when you don't have to have your stop as a timed one. What all these pit stops have meant, though, Johnny, is that up into 3rd place now it's kind of the Landgraf Mercedes. So the order in terms of manufacturer at the front is BMW from Falcon leading the way with the number 3 car, 2nd Porsche from Fricadelli, and then in 3rd place the Mercedes of Landgraf going through. And now, did we see a pit stop from the number 3 car? We see the Fricadelli car coming in, the number 31 car.
And the 3 is in as well, just being rotated to 45 degrees. Don't be concerned that it's on the dolly jacks. That's all part of the procedure in the pits, just to make sure the car is spun around. As Paul was mentioning, the fuel cap can be located a little closer as well to the fueling area, so it's easy to get the nozzle in, and then the car in the optimum position to be released from the pit lane apron once that stop is done. But this is a race for the race lead, effectively, on pit lane between that's Falcon tyres, isn't it, for the number 3, the number 31, I should say. Yes, Falcon having some backing on the door as well, the driver's door for the Fricadelli Porsche.
And of course, the battle is not just in the pits, Johnny, because it's out on the track as well. We need to be able to see who's coming past at the start-finish line to see whether or not either the Renault or the Manthey Racing, well, it's going to be the Manthey Racing Porsche, isn't it, 911, whether that's going to be able to get through first. Now, because of the way the pit stops work, these pit stops will be longer than the pit stops that we saw on the previous lap. So I reckon that 911, the Manthey Porsche, whether it should now be Romain Dumas at the wheel, shouldn't it, who's taken over. And so Romain Dumas should be coming through out on the circuit and will be going through to take the lead of the race ahead of these 2 cars which were in the lead of the race but will now have a longer pit stop by virtue of having had an extra lap out on the circuit. And the 44 car hasn't yet stopped, and we're waiting to see whether that comes in towards the end of this lap. If not, then that will effectively inherit the lead. Although the 36 BMW, that's the Z4, isn't it? That has made a pit stop. Okay, I think that's not triggered yet on my screen, but I'm wondering sometimes whether that's my screen's slightly behind. Meanwhile, the 100 car from Valkenhorst Motorsports, shown in timing and scoring down in 16th position, but obviously it will all unwind as cars ahead of it make their stops. The 100 car relatively early to make a stop, but obviously it was potentially a longer stop for Valkenhorst Motorsport as they taped up the front end
just overtaking an Audi RS3 from the TCR class. And here comes the number 3 BMW with the 4 Porsche able to jump ahead of it. That car has stopped, but the 4's been delayed, hasn't it? Because it had that extra lap, of course. Oh no, the 4's way off because of various issues. So we need to discount that. But the 100 car.
But I think the Manthey Porsche 911 is ahead of both of these cars.
Both the BMW M6s.
Yes. Yeah, so I think Manthey has gone through and leads the race. We just didn't pick it up on the TV cameras, and hopefully we will do. It should be coming up towards. No, it is behind, because that was it just going through in the background, I think.
The 609 looks a little bit like the Manthey Racing Grello car.
Yeah.
So just be cautious of that. But I think you're right with those new style headlights. Almost with lights in all
the little
4 corners.
4, yeah,
yes.
No, that's the Manthey car, which is further back than I thought it was. So I thought maybe the 911 had a slightly longer pit stop for reasons that will become clear later.
Yes, that little pattern of headlights I first remember seeing on the Porsche 919 hybrids, and then it was quickly adopted by the future road cars from Porsche, and obviously now being very much present in their GT3 and GTE cars too. Toyota GT86 from Cup 4 heading into Tiergarten. Nobody to race with for this little Toyota, although it's still very rapidly heading into Tiergarten and going down the gears. So that is car 535 peeling off to make its stop. We don't, by the way, for this event, very similar to VLN 3, don't have that ride height check that was in place for the SP9s during the Nürburgring 24-hour event. They had to do an extra jink right and left to go over what you described, I think, as the inside of a kitchen roll. And the kitchen roll would rotate if the car was running too low on its ride height. Managed to get quite a good view of that during the 24-hour weekend from the tower that is very close to pit lane in. And that tower leads into the media centre and various hospitality suites further up, but you could pick a place partway down the stairs, which has a fantastic view of the end of the lap. And also the area where the alternatively fueled cars have their own little private fueling area too. Porsche 911, yes, it's definitely behind car 35, and has behind it the 55 Renault RS01. Those cars then heading into Arenberg now, and now into the foxhole, this plummet downhill, needing to be careful of a TCR Audi. The 911 car is able to get by now, but just very slightly delayed. And the driver of the 55 Renault RS01 able to react to the situation just that little bit more readily, because at the extra couple of meters as a warning. Now into the area which got absolutely soaked towards the end of the 24-hour race. That's Adenauer Forst. That awkward, tight left-hander followed by the right-hander. Get a nice little spectator area there. Double left-hander here as the downhill run towards Breitscheid continues. And Romain Dumas just trying to pedal his way away from this G-Tronics team Renault RS01, but the French car sticking with the rear-engine Porsche for the time being. Very quickly getting by one of the many Renault Clios that are not necessarily all in the same class. So BMW leading the way, having now 3 BMW made its stop. We talked about that. The car is now on to its 8th lap and the first of its second stint. Porsche number 31 has also made a stop, so that car in second position. And then it's the 36. Well, no, it won't be the 36 because that car's now come into pit lane. 36, one of those that left it stop till the last possible moment. I'm not sure whether we saw any cars though go for an 8-lap stint all. An SP7 car can comfortably do 9 laps, we found out during VLN 3. So car 62, which is one of the SP7s, hasn't yet stopped. Porsche 911 GT America car. That's on lap 8 now. And somewhere in the 4th sector.
Yes, I don't think any of the SP9 cars will be able to go any further, because don't forget, they will have had to have done the extra lap behind the safety car. So the first lap, although you're not using as much fuel behind the pace car on the opening lap, you are still limiting the range of the first stint. Just a quick look at the class positions in Cup 1. That's being led by 355. That's the Strycek family Opel Astra OPC Cup. In Cup 2, the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup class being led by number 1. That's Christopher Mies at the wheel of the car number 1, ahead of the 101 car in 2nd place in Cup 2. Cup 3 for the Cayman GT4 cars. That's being led by 979 from 960 still, as it was in the very early stages. Those two separated by less than a second out on the circuit. In Cup 4, the GT86 class, that's being led by 535 from 533 from 532 are the first 3 in the Cup 4 class, which is the GT86. In Cup 5, the 235 BMWs, number 691 is Wolfgang Schrei, leading in that class by 4 seconds. In the Cup X, it's still the Stucks, leading in number 925. And in H2, the Renault Clio RS3 of number 627 is leading in that class.
Just waiting to see the order of the cars as they head onto the Dottinger Höhe for the 8th time, but we might well have an SP7 not very far away now from the SP9 leaders, because the SP7 car number 62 hasn't yet stopped, and the car 62 was able to go a significant way into the opening stint a couple of weekends ago. In fact, the SP7 car was kind of called the leader, although on the lap that it was set to inherit the lead on the timing and scoring page, it came into for a pit stop. But SP7 was certainly the first car to reach the end of lap 9. And it's going to be nip and tuck to say who's now ahead of the cars negotiating lap 8. Is it number 3, is it 31, or is it indeed 62? Car 4, which has been in the wars, we know all about that after damage encountered and experienced at Hatzenbach, and it had to do an extra lap, effectively the Grand Prix track. Didn't have to, but as a result of where the incident happened, it sneaked into the back door. And once you do that and don't go onto the Nordschleife, that lap is immediately deleted, not considered clearly a full lap. So car 4 now heading into the first corner and way down the order, sadly.
Yeah, but currently been shown 86 overall out of 145 starters, but lapping quickly. That car having had gearbox problems as well, which have now been sorted, and so that car going well.
Do we know any more about the problems for the 59 Porsche?
I'm not sure that never came out again.
Oh dear, okay.
Yeah, that was the car that we saw being pushed back into the garage with its drive train problems.
Yes, I'm not sure whether that was also perhaps gearbox related.
Yes, currently being shown 131st, so just with 4 laps, no further distance completed for that car. Oh, sorry, 4 laps behind, I should say. So that car has completed 3 laps only, and then it came into the pits, hasn't been out again since.
So BMW number 3 having reached the end of another lap, with the 100 car not too far away. And there are now 2 hours and 49 minutes to go.
Yes, and what you said was going to happen has happened, because we do have an SP7 class car in the lead of the race, number 62, which has stayed out on this lap. The Gigaspeed Porsche GT America of Frank Kraling, Mark Gindorf and Christopher Brook. That car on which we're now doing currently having a view from the driver's cockpit, leading the race, having stayed out, as I say, to